my arts and entertainment segment here in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. We're going to be talking to a lot of great guests today, as usual. Some great performances coming up this weekend that we're going to talk about, and I'll be finishing up the hour with a live music performance, so be sure to stick around for that. But my first guest is the founder and artistic director of the Wilbury Theater. And we're going to talk about the new show that they have opening this week called Church. Love to talk to Josh Short. Come on out, Josh. Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to GoLocal Live. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So let's talk a little bit about Church. I've heard a lot about this playwright, and the show sounds very cool and kind of an interesting choice for the holiday season.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the play Church.
Well, the play's it was written by Young Jean Lee, who's an experimental playwright, and she wrote this play to kind of reconcile with herself her own struggles with religion that she had growing up in a very evangelical family. So the play itself is actually the kind of church service that she would like to go to. So it's more about community, it's more about what it means to be a good person, that sort of thing, and it's got a little bit of magic in it, and it's about, there's some mummies in it as well.
Mummies.
Right, and then
Awesome.
there's some great music. The music in it is just absolutely beautiful. Working with Delbert Collins is the music director for RPM Voices, and he's worked on this show with us. And the actors and the musicians, they just sound incredible. So
Yeah,
really
it
great.
sounds really cool. It says that there's a whole gospel choir that kind of joins in, and that the whole experience is like a religious experience. But it's interesting to me. It's kind of compelling idea that the whole inspiration came from the playwright grappling with her own ideas of Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you feel like the piece kind of touches upon that subject? Seems like it's sort of a touchy subject.
Well, I guess it's touchy. I think a lot of people might expect it to be a criticism of religion.
Right.
A few years ago, we did this play, a very merry, unauthorized children's Scientology pageant. And that was more of a criticism. It was basically a pageant with children about L. Ron Hubbard, the Scientologist founder. So that was a little more, critical, and I think people might expect the same thing from this. And I think what's so surprising about this piece is not the criticism of religion or church, but it's like the very earnest approach to trying to make some sense out of it. And at this time of year, it's the only time of year that a lot of people go to church. Right, and so I think it's to make you think about it, to make you question about it, and the stories that you're told, and that sort of thing. And what are we willing to accept on faith, or in our religions, and why?
I think that was a really great point that you brought up, because it is kind of true that around the holidays, those people that don't really make religion or going to church a part of their daily life, it seems like, oh, it's the holiday, I have to go to church now.
Right, there's some,
and it
like,
feels sort of
guilty.
hypocritical.
Yeah,
It feels
totally.
guilt. You feel
Yeah.
the guilt. But it seems like you can go to Wilbury Theater and have a wonderful church experience.
Yep, and just cross that right off your list.
Right off your
this
list.
year.
So was it a purposeful decision to have this be the piece that you're doing around this holiday season? It's sort of like the Wilbury's version of their holiday show.
Yeah. I mean, we try and do things that kind of respond to the current moment, and and trying to think of like a December holiday show without doing a holiday show. What are people going to be thinking about? What's going to be in the air? So yeah.
It does seem like a good choice. For
Thanks.
everything that you guys do, it does seem like a good choice. And you mentioned the playwright Young Jean Lee, and you have produced another one of her pieces. And you were saying that this is a playwright that you actually really admire. In fact, you said one of the most important playwrights of our generation, according to Josh Short. So, and you also mentioned that this is a playwright that doesn't really get produced too often outside of the kind of New York and Chicago theater scene. So why have you decided to produce so much of her work at the Wilbury?
Well, I think she's incredible in that she really approaches every work as what is the most difficult thing that I could write about from her personal experience. So all of her work is really tries harder than I think a lot of other playwrights might do. It comes easy to a lot of playwrights to kind of just write what they know, and that's what they say is write what they know. But she says, well, I'll write what I know, but I'm going to write it from my unique perspective as an Asian American woman in America. And so what comes out is actually incredibly unique. And I've always admired that. I think people hear the words experimental playwright and they get a little freaked out. But it's actually the work. It tends to be very conventional. It's just turned on its head or looked at a little sideways, I guess. Yeah.
That's really cool. I like that it is actually more elusive of an explanation of experimental, because it makes you really want to see her work even more, to figure out what is it that is so different about her point of view. In fact, there's a word that keeps being used to describe this play, and that is that, it's all of these wonderful things, but it's also a little devious. So what would you describe as that devious factor?
Well, I think the devious factor, again, comes from people expecting it. Maybe you expect it to be one thing, or, or you're listening to this right now saying, well, I'm not going to go to a place where I'll be offended, where you're going to attack my religion. And I think what's subversive about it is that that's not what it is, and that's what... so I think in that way she really fools people. People go in, and people, liberal people, like myself, go in there thinking, well, I'm not going to buy into this, whatever it is, and then we find ourselves strangely moved by the very personal stories that the people tell in the music and everything, and it's just like, wow, I just feel like I had an incredible experience. What's wrong with me? And it's great.
Yeah, like it's like boiled down to that real. All the good that is with religion, which is like fellowship and really, coming together and, how to be a good person and how to do good things. Those are the really important things. So it sounds really cool. So tell us a little bit about the cast. I know Brian Lang directed. We've had him on the show in the past, so he's an old friend of ours.
He is. He's very sorry he couldn't be here today.
Oh, no worries. Yeah. We'll definitely get him back on another time.
Yeah, but Brian's directed with us a few things over the years. He's a great director. He has all his shows have this very loose, very very wonderful feel, where you feel like you're really part of the play with the actors. And some of the cast in it, we've got. There's too many to name. I mean, Phoenix Williams plays Reverend Jose, and Phoenix has done a lot of stuff with us. He's terrific. Ray Mancini and Millie Massey. Gunnar Manchester is a great young actor. He plays the violin. If anybody saw Spring Awakening that we did last year, he was playing the violin in that. He's just incredible. He picks that up again in this. And Sarah Leach is a great actress, and Jason Quinn can sing like an angel. He's great. It's really just an incredible cast, and
awesome.
Just really glad to have them all on this.
I'm like sold. I'm totally sold on this. This sounds like a good time. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the Wilbury itself. I mean, you are the founder, artistic director. Wilbury is relatively newer of a theater in this community, where we have a lot of professional theaters that have been around for ages. So why did you feel Wilbury has its own place here with what your mission is for the theater?
Well, I think to paint it as like a calculated move would not be truthful. I mean, it would kind of happen by accident. It was just trying to stay busy, just trying to keep working on things. Right. And after a couple of years of doing that and starting to work with the same people over and over, it felt like we were really coming together with some kind of like a common aesthetic and common values as artists. And the Wilbury group just kind of happened. And then we started things like our New Works program, which develops new works by local artists. We started an education program, so working in after-school programs throughout Providence. And then then a few years ago, 4 years ago, we started the Providence Fringe Festival, which basically in the last 2 years it's just totally blown up, and it's great. There, hundreds of artists from all over the place, and thousands of people come down. Last year we partnered with Waterfire on it, and it was terrific. So I think the Wilbury group has kind of just become its own thing, and I hesitate to say too much about trying to fill some hole that was in the city. I feel like it was able to happen because this space existed as a home for groundbreaking artists and new work. So
right, yeah. And I agree. I definitely feel that there's enough space for all of it here. This is such an amazing artistic place that just welcomes any kind of new development. But I particularly appreciate, and I want to personally thank you for putting the PVD Fest, the Fringe Fest.
Not the PVD Fest.
Yeah, I'm sorry, the Fringe PVD.
Yeah, okay.
I know PVD Fest was another amazing thing, but as far as the Fringe Festival, a lot of major cities have their Fringe festivals that are extremely important to the new works that are being done. So Providence definitely needed that, I think.
Yeah, and it's a great like impetus for people, like a reason to create something. They're like, well, if I do it, I can put it in the Fringe Festival, and it's 100% of the door proceeds goes to the artist. It's not like the festival is taking a cut. We try and support you and give you a place to produce the work and that sort of thing. So it's it does seem like it's opened up a lot of opportunities for artists. So I'm glad that artists are taking advantage of that opportunity.
Yeah, especially the ones that may want to do something a little outside
Yeah,
the
a
box.
little out there, totally. Yeah.
Want to do something a little off, and now I have a venue for this. I have a space that I can do it.
Yeah, it's been great. Yeah.
So what's up next for Wilbury Theater?
So next, we just started last night. We started rehearsals for our January show, which is The Skin of Our Teeth. It's an old classic by Thornton Wilder, and we're very excited about it. It's actually it's a show that follows this family, the everyday American family, through the end of the world, like 4 times over. So it deals with global warming and war and famine and all that stuff happens, and it's surrounded in this very vaudeville kind of vaudeville style, right? So it's really funny, and we're looking at doing it as more of like a cabaret piece. Kind of the audience can come into this cabaret at the end of the world, basically, and see the show. So we just started last night. It's great. Very exciting.
Sounds really cool, and you're directing,
Mm-hmm.
so you get your hands-on, interpretation of the piece, which is cool.
Yeah.
And I actually like that you are yourself an artist. You are an actor and a director, and so when you're when the organization is choosing the pieces for the season, do you get to sort of be like, well, I've always wanted to play this role, let me do this, or do you kind of fill in the blanks after the fact?
Well, yeah. I mean, acting is not really my number one thing so much anymore. I'd much rather direct, and there are lots of plays that I look at and I'm like, well, I'd love to direct. I mean, Skin of Our Teeth is this giant play. I mean, in the American canon and stuff, and a lot of people read it in school, and it's something that I'm like, well, I'd like to do that. I mean, it's almost impossible. It talks about giant walls of ice moving across the stage, and it's like that. It's impossible, but to be able to figure it out is a great challenge. So I do cherry pick things like that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
you might as well.
Right.
I mean, it's your thing. You put in the work.
Well, yeah. But and there are a lot of other people too that get their feedback in. Yeah.
Of course. Well, it sounds like a really exciting production. Church opens this Thursday night, December 7th, and it runs through
December 23rd.
Perfect. So if you want to go check out Church at the Wilbury Theater, please do so. Josh, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
I'm going to take a quick little pause to set up for my next guest, so stick around.